In this video, I interviewed the co-founder of the Jibrel network, Talal. So the Jibrel network wants to bring traditional financial assets like equities, currencies, and commodities onto the blockchain. A lot of people have been asking me, how do you compare the JUSD with something like USD Tether? And hopefully in this video, we get to learn a little bit more about that. I first learned about the Jibrel network when they invited me to their event in South Korea. It was the biggest event ever held about blockchain in South Korean history. It featured very important guests like Da Hongfei, the co-founder of Neo, Zhao Sengpeng, the CEO of Binance, and of course Don Tapscott. It was also one of the first events I got to present at, so I was so excited to go there to check out what they had, and it was just absolutely amazing. I always wanted to learn a little bit more about the Gibraltar Network, and I finally get the chance to interview Talal. Hey guys, welcome back to Boxmining. Today I have the co-founder of the Jibrel network, Talal. So Talal, welcome to the channel. And this is one of my most anticipated interviews because of my talk in the Jibrel network in South Korea talk. So can you tell me a little bit about what is the Jibrel network?
All right. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on your show. Jibril Network, the best way to think about it is we want to give traditional assets the transaction properties of cryptocurrencies. So we believe that as long as the crypto economy is operating in a silo, it won't be able to reach its potential.
Mm-hmm.
So take traditional assets such as currencies, bonds, non-listed equities, commodities, futures. These assets have stability, they're regulated, and they're insured. So these are advantages of those, and no one can deny that these are good properties to have. At the same time, with cryptocurrencies, they are the best way of transacting value in the history of time. There's never been a more efficient way to transact than cryptocurrencies. However, they are not the best store of value. If Ether drops 20, 30% overnight, then it might not be the best store of value.
That's true. It's
However,
super volatile right now, and we have 24-hour trading. So I guess that's one of the
yeah,
funnest things about crypto.
not good for your sleeping habits, but I don't mind it at all.
So you're trying to bring these traditional assets on. So can you say like eventually can we eventually buy something like Tesla stock or Apple on the blockchain?
Good question. And actually, the answer would be no. We don't do any listed equities. So
Right.
you have a lot of projects that want to do listed equities or tokenized stocks, let's say. In
Mm-hmm.
reality, that doesn't work. You
Okay.
won't be able to transact stocks or listed equities on a public blockchain at the moment for two main reasons. The first reason is called front running. So let's say we both want to buy that Tesla stock that you were mentioning just now.
Uh-huh.
And I place an order on the blockchain and it's public, so you can see my transaction. You want to beat me to that Tesla stock, you could easily put a higher gas fee and actually beat me to that transaction. So with public blockchains, it's going to be difficult because of front running. But the more important part is high frequency trading. So today, a large portion of stock market activity is actually high frequency trading. And we know what happened with the Ethereum blockchain when
Right.
crypto.
Right. So if with high frequency transactions, Ethereum would not be able to deal with that amount of trading activity, right? That's what you think?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Even with the scaling solutions that we propose, do you think it's still even viable or not?
Look, to be honest, I think for us, the tokenization of fiat currencies is the most important thing.
Okay.
So the concept of crypto fiat, because that lays down the infrastructure for everything else going forward. Let me give you an example. Today, you pay your rent or your mortgage in dollar or pound or
Mm-hmm.
euro. You don't pay it in F, and that's not going to change anytime soon. But imagine if you were able to do a smart contract that has a payout in dollars or euros. So today, the Ethereum blockchain's smart contracts can actually solve a lot of real world business problems. But a top manufacturer, for example, any manufacturer wouldn't necessarily want to do an Ethereum smart contract for their manufacturing process, let's say, because the payout would be in Ether. And Ether is difficult to record on a balance sheet or in traditional finance.
Yeah, it
So,
changes every hour, not just every like day. So like you'll be like highly fluctuating, and you have no idea what's happening. So how are we trying to solve that problem then?
so basically, when I said earlier we want to give traditional assets the transaction properties of crypto, we have a concept at Jibril that our CTO Victor
Mm-hmm.
came up with called crypto depository receipts or CRIDers in short. So in the old days, if you used to go to the bank and give them $1 million, they'd give you a piece of paper saying Michael has $1 million sitting in that bank.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of doing the same thing, but in a cryptographic format. So the Jcash solution is for tokenized fiat currency, and that's,
Okay.
let's say, JUSD would be the tokenized dollar. And the way that it works is that we have a dollar sitting in a regulated financial institution as collateral, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
or as the off-chain asset.
Mm-hmm.
So every dollar on our platform is actually backed up by a real asset off-chain.
Okay.
So there's the duality thing. I'll explain to you now how JNT fits in, which is also extremely important. But the way that it works is that you have a tokenized dollar on the Ethereum blockchain, which is actually backed up by a real dollar in a regulated financial institution that's also audited by one of the big four companies.
Okay. Okay. So you want to do actual auditing because we've seen something like that called USD Tether, and there's so much controversy surrounding that Tether. So how are you guys gonna be different? How is the mechanics of the Jcash gonna work? Jcash USD.
All right. So first of all, if you want to do asset-backed tokens, you have to have the assets first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the concept that we've came up with is actually very pragmatic. Yazan and I both used to work in financial advisory.
Mm-hmm.
Hamza as well, part of our team we all used to work in financial advisory. So we're following a pretty, let's say, structured roadmap for that.
Mm-hmm.
Tether's market cap today is over $2 billion.
Yeah, it is.
I currently don't have $2 billion at Jibril. So if I wanted to mint $2 billion of JUSD, I wouldn't be able to do it. So what we're doing today is we are going to take a portion of the $30 million that we raised.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to tokenize it ourselves. So we're going to take the risk on that. And we're going to run pilots with banks, exchanges. When I say exchanges, I mean traditional exchanges.
Okay. Okay.
Entities with large assets under management and license in the relevant jurisdiction.
Okay.
So the way that it works is we run the pilot using our own money. The financial institution becomes more comfortable with the process. We engage the regulator as well through pilot programs. And then we're able to bring institutional grade liquidity to the blockchain. And what I mean by institutional grade liquidity is when you talk about a bank that has a couple of billion of assets under management, and they could tokenize some of their assets risk-free because they remains the custodian of the asset, there's the proper value proposition.
Okay, so you're not really accepting USD deposits, rather, but you're tokenizing funds that are already kind of that's stored in an institution. So eventually, how would you issue that out then? How would you create those assets and interact with the cryptocurrency community then?
Great. So to begin with, we're not going to offer our Jcash solution to the crypto economy. We're going to first offer it to traditional banks who are also interested
Oh,
in
okay.
joining in this industry. So today you have a lot of banks that are on the fence. They want to
Mm-hmm.
work in the crypto economy, but the compliance department is giving them a hard time, or they. So there's two types of banks: banks that are completely shunning away the crypto, let's say, economy,
Mm-hmm.
and then the others that are saying we want to do private blockchains, which are not, for me, I mean, it's not much than using Excel, let's say.
It's true. It's true.
I guess the way that it would work, going back to your earlier question about the difference between JUSD and Tether, for example, um, JUSD is backed up on chain and off chain. What does that mean? If you have JUSD, that means there's a dollar in a regulated financial institution that's backing up your JUSD. But at the same time, you can always exchange your JUSD for the equivalent amount of JNT. So the Jibril DAO will always guarantee the payout of your CRIDER in JNT. So let's say you have one JUSD and the
Mm-hmm.
value of JNT is zero point 0.5.
Mm-hmm.
That means at any point in time, you can come to the DAO, send the JUSD, and you get your JNT in exchange.
Okay.
So the cash out process today would be similar to how cryptocurrencies are cashed out. Since JNT is listed and it's liquid, you would be able to move from JUSD to JNT, and then you'd be able to cash out using an exchange, a crypto exchange, if you may.
Okay.
Going forward, we aim to become that as well. So Jibril is actually in the process of becoming a regulated financial institution
Okay.
in more than one jurisdiction. Some of it using our partners, some of it using our own, let's say, our own commercial registration. And what that would allow us to do is to actually cash out, because we become the bank essentially. So if you have a JUSD and you come to Jibril's decentral bank and you want to cash it in, then that's going to be hopefully possible in the near future.
Okay, so the whole process that you want to kind of create this JUSD, which is backed by real world assets, starting with your own cash, hopefully getting institutional money there. Then this allows the institution to eventually cash out into JNTs. Why would they want to do that? What's the advantage of getting JNTs then?
Good question. Good question. So actually, the JNT element is something that we control or the Jibril DAO would hold. Mm-hmm. So as a financial institution that is maybe reluctant to deal with cryptocurrencies today, you're actually able to deal with traditional assets solely. And then the JNT we leave for the crypto economy, and the Jibril DAO will always have to keep enough JNT to maintain our liabilities. Let me walk you through that again, because that process is very interesting and at the same time very important to the core, let's say, concept of Jibril. JUSD, it's straightforward. It's a good example to give. We have $10 million worth of JUSD floating around in between Michael and Talal, let's say. We're customers. That means the Jibril DAO will always need to hold enough JNT to cover its on-chain liabilities. Mm-hmm. So that means if JNT's so today JUSD is worth $1. If JNT is also worth $1, then we have enough to cover our on-chain liabilities. Let's say JNT's price drops, then the Jibril DAO will be required to buy more JNT to cover its liabilities. And since every creditor or every on-chain liability is actually backed up by a real asset, that's how we do our solvency proofing. And that's how we make sure that we are immune to any, let's say, crash into the crypto economy, because everything is let's say, if everything turns to zero, you still have the underlying assets backing them up in the bank. So the logic will hold as long as JNT holds a non-zero value.
Okay. So you're required to buy that much, but because the cryptocurrency markets fluctuate like this right now, that will require a lot of kind of money moving in and out of the JNT DAO, right? So the Jibril DAO, is that correct or incorrect?
Yes.
Okay. So what if institution wants to come in and they bring a bunch of money? So the DAO would then be required to buy that amount of JNT from the market? Is that it, assuming everything stays the same price?
Yes, sure. That is a fair assumption.
Okay. So
which is why we think JNT has a, let's say, bright future ahead.
Okay, so what you described it sounds like it's very institutional based. So a lot of institutions can now use this and don't even have to interact with the cryptocurrency space. It sounds like, right? So that is how much institutional interest is that for Jibril products in the space? You know, are they excited for the advantages that crypto brings?
There's about 1,500 billion US dollars in circulation. Mm-hmm. Just to give a bit of context on how small our crypto economy still is, we still have a long way to go. But for us to reach the proper potential, for the crypto economy to reach its proper potential, we need to engage banks. We need to engage regulators. So when you have a bank that has $10 billion of assets under management, when that type of bank starts participating in the crypto economy, that's when you'll see mass adoption. Mm-hmm. Plus, at the same time, so I come from an engineering background, but I worked in financial services.
Okay.
And then what that made me understand is that in reality, if you use technology to circumvent existing regulations, then you're not building a sustainable model. Mm-hmm. For us, we think that if you're using cryptocurrencies to make processes more efficient, to solve real-world problems, then you'll be able to have a sustainable business for years to come. Mm-hmm. But if you're using it to circumvent existing regulations or to evade tax or whatever, they'll clamp down. Governments will clamp down eventually. Right. In the crypto economy, you have two opposite, let's say, spectrums. You have people like Jamie Dimon who live under a rock and think that that it's a fraud.
Yeah.
I think he
Not very
retracted some of
soon.
his
He said it was a fraud, but I think not very soon. There's internal memo supposedly in that's coming out. Maybe that they might think it's not much of a fraud anymore. I think he kind of went back on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back on that because throughout history you've had the first time an electric bulb was on, it was at the Paris Air Show, and the governor of Paris said that's probably the last time we see a
It is
bulb because
true. There was so much like hatred towards electricity when it first started. Like people are
or any
thinking it's
technology.
unsafe. Yeah, it's like that. It's always been that case.
An example that I like to give that I took from Don Tapscott's speech, but I honestly love it because it gives you an example or it gives you real proof of how people are afraid of change.
Mm-hmm.
So when the first car was imported from the US to Britain, when it was the Ford vehicle, there
Yep.
was a rule that mandated that three people would have to be in the car: the pilot, or let's say the chauffeur, a mechanic, and then a guy in front of the car with a red flag to make sure the car doesn't kill anyone.
It's like the stupidest thing that you can ever do. And I think I heard that before because what they're saying is the car can never travel faster than the guy running the flag, right? So what was the point of this stupid car? Like,
Exactly. So you put limitations. So I think this is very relevant to where cryptocurrencies are today. I personally salute governments and financial regulators that have tried to embrace it, whether it's Dubai, Switzerland, Singapore, Japan. These progressive stances, I think, will pay off very handsomely in the long term.
right. And how progressive are these countries? So you've obviously been interacting with traditional institutions a lot and trying to engage them a lot. Which countries do you find are particularly more open to this? And how so, or in what ways as well?
All right. So I think looking at where Jibril is registered and where we have offices, that's kind of indicative of where we believe the best ecosystems are. So
Mm-hmm.
our legal entity is in Zug, Switzerland, and that's purely because they've put a clear framework for token generation events. They don't even call them ICOs over
Okay.
there. They call them token generation events, but the acronym for me is not the most important part. What's important is that there's, let's say, an ecosystem which promotes this type of
Mm-hmm.
fundraising. So an
Okay.
ICO is a way to raise
Funds.
capital as opposed to a way to exit, where people confuse ICO and IPO, where in reality they're completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So Zug, Switzerland, I think is one of the best. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason for that is, so there's the Crypto Valley Association, which I'm a member of, and Jibril are also a member of. They support you a lot. So whenever you want to speak to the
Ah, okay.
regulator, whether you have a solid business case, if there's areas that are non-compliant, they also help you with it. So Swiss regulations are difficult, but they're very clear.
Okay.
So they'll tell you you have to do one, two, three, four, five. The list goes on and on, but at least you know what you have to do to remain compliant.
Okay.
We did a full KYC AML check for our token sale. We lost out on a good amount of investors because of that. Like when we first started our ICO, people would be like, "But why do I need to submit my passport?"
Right. Right.
So
Right.
this is something that for us we were more than happy to not raise as much as eventually we were able to close our hard cap, but we had a slow start with the ICO because people were hesitant to
Right.
submit their passports. But for us, it was more important to be regulated than to think of the short-term financial gain.
Exactly, because you've been saying for the whole time that compliance to regulation is for the long term, right? So in terms of long term, and talked about Switzerland, how about in the other countries that you dealt with, like Korea
So
and
Switzerland is we the legal entity Jibril AG is registered in Switzerland. We
mm-hmm,
were also considering Singapore. Singapore is definitely
mm-hmm,
a jurisdiction that is very progressive.
mm-hmm,
They also have a huge financial ecosystem that also can help new blockchain platforms or new blockchain companies
mm-hmm.
to flourish. Japan is obviously one of the leaders, especially what they did with the exchanges is something that is unprecedented in the world. For us, the jurisdiction that supports crypto or supports innovation in crypto is the one that puts, let's say, a framework that allows you to operate with minimal or preferred, let's say, financial regulation. So if you look at what the DFSA, which is the Dubai Financial Services Authority, what they've done is
Hmm.
they've released something called the Innovation Testing License.
Okay.
So these types of programs are ones that we are looking into heavily at Jibril,
Okay.
because it allows you to operate as if you're a financial institution or similar to a financial institution, but with close coordination with the regulator.
Okay. So in terms of this, you've been browsing different countries and different regulations for some time. So what sort of partnerships have you guys formed in this space of time?
All right. So at Jibril, we've been very selective with our partners. The reason why I say that is today in the crypto economy, unfortunately, a lot of people want to make the quick buck. So you get approached by companies where they do something that's completely irrelevant. They're like, let's sign a strategic partnership. And I tried to ask or say, what areas of synergy are we going to work on?
Uh huh.
And the answer is usually like, oh, we'll see in the future. Or so you can obviously see that that is a way to kind of get both communities to invest in coins. So
Right.
let's say there's Boxmining coin and Jibril coin. I'm like,
Okay.
let's
That's
sign a
the.
partnership and with the intention of not actually doing something to improve the way we do business,
Right.
rather than help gain, let's
Yeah.
say,
It's
traction.
it's about advertising now. Partnerships are like just an advertising tool. So then, what have you been focusing on? Like, what sort of
So
solid partnerships have you been trying to do?
I think we'll be announcing a very solid partnership towards the end of the month, which is actually why I'm here in Dubai.
Okay.
There's a company called Seed Group, which
Okay.
is the private office of Sheikh Saeed bin Ahmed Al Maktoum, who is a member of the ruling family in Dubai.
Okay.
Uh, Dubai have been very upfront and honest about their support for blockchain innovation. So if you look at the Crown Prince of Dubai, Sheikh Hamdan, who's one
Okay.
of the smartest, most active people I know,
Yeah.
um, he said, or he basically has a vision that Dubai is going to be the blockchain capital of the world by 2020.
Ooh. Okay. So he's really trying to push that hard then.
Yes, so pushing that hard means so if you have they're starting off with their government initiative. So today the Dubai Land Registry is actually registered on a blockchain.
Oh.
Consensus,
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Consensus,
Okay.
Consensus have one of their biggest offices also in Dubai.
Okay.
Um, you have the likes of us, for example, a company that is registered in Switzerland with headquarters in New York, coming to Dubai to open up an office. And
Okay.
that's because we believe that we need to be close to the ground where all the action is happening.
Okay.
So yeah, the partnership with Seed Group will focus on launching Jcash compliantly in the region.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
Okay.
and as I mentioned to you earlier, we won't be able to tokenize any assets until the assets are actually there.
Mhm.
So the access to funding or the access to assets for Sheikh Saeed or for Seed Group is multiples and multiples of what we thought we would have been able to get as Jibril Network. So it's always important to know what you're capable of and working with that, or if it's something that you can't do, you should partner with someone that can. So
Right.
this is
So your partnership. So you basically set up your offices in Dubai already because you can see the potential because they're trying to push to be the blockchain capital of the world. And then of course you're trying to partnership with a group that's going to be able to allow Jcash to be used in that region, basically, right?
yes, yes. So actually, we're not going to rent out an office. We're going to take an office space within the Seed Group. So
Okay.
Sheikh Saeed was kind enough to allocate
Oh,
office
nice.
space for us, which is great. But yeah, going back to regulations and why I think it's crucial. So the only reason why we came to Dubai, or actually not the only reason, there's many reasons to come to Dubai. It's a beautiful city, but the government's support of cryptocurrencies, or not cryptocurrencies, of blockchain innovation is key.
Hmm.
And Jibril's mandate or Jibril's values are always aligned to working with alongside the regulators as opposed to shunning them away or not working with them.
Hmm.
So going back to CRIDers or crypto depository receipts, I want to link that with regulations. So every CRIDER actually has smart regulations embedded in it. So
Okay.
Victor and Yazan are much smarter than I am when it comes to coming up with crazy ideas. And this crazy idea was one that I did not think was possible, but now We've actually been running it on the Robston testnet since
Okay.
last May or March. And that basically says that you bring financial regulations, you translate them into code, and you embed them into the token.
Right,
So
right, right.
this concept has been, or the ability to translate regulations into code has been our, let's say, ace when we want to go speak to banks, because the implications that this can have on the way that regulations are enforced are unbelievable.
Right.
So imagine a US dollar, all right? So if we have physical cash, and let's assume I'm blacklisted, all right? And you
Okay.
wanted to give me $1 million of cash. You came with a bag and you hand me over the cash. There's nothing that's stopping me from taking that cash, even though I'm blacklisted.
Right, right.
So again, this is in the off-chain world. You can't track it. You can't stop me from getting it. But if you're on chain and you try to send me JUSD and I'm blacklisted with the regulator, that tokenized dollar would refuse to go to my wallet.
Right.
Why? Because we embed regulations into that JUSD alongside the issuer. Um, that basically has predetermined criteria. So, if an example, US Treasury bill, if I try to sell you a US Treasury bill, you can hold the US Treasury bill until maturity. But
Right.
for you to sell a US Treasury bill, you need to have the relevant license.
Right, right.
So that tokenized UST bill is smart in the sense that it knows who's authorized to hold and who's not authorized to hold.
Right. That's kind of very interesting because I've seen this a little bit before with Polymath. They're trying to create the ST20 standard as well for security-based tokens. So they're trying to embed basically new rules and regulations in the pre-baked into the so it's much easier and much more acceptable for a regulated environment. So I feel like is that a little bit similar to what you guys are doing as well? To just have
Sure. I mean, this space is huge. Honestly, the potential for. So I think that in the crypto economy, we haven't focused too much about what our competitors are doing. I'm sure there's a lot of them,
Mhm.
but the market is so big that it's counterproductive to think of what your competitors are doing. I
Mhm.
mean, we've seen on multiple occasions ideas that we've released that have been taken or used by other companies, but that's fair game. I mean, people could take your ideas, but it's up to
Yes.
you to implement them in a better way. I mean, if
Exactly.
we came up with an idea, we're pretty confident that we can implement it better than anyone
Okay.
else.
So
I'm not referring to a specific case here, but I guess my point is that it's counterproductive to think or to lose sleep or over what other competitors are doing, because the
okay.
market is so huge and the gap is allows space for everyone to grow.
For sure, for sure. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not a zero sum game. But more importantly, in terms of those regulations, are you creating a new token standard, or like this asset is a new class of asset, or it's all built in the
So
contract, right?
so today today we did our token sale on Ethereum. We are
Mm-hmm.
based on Ethereum
Mm-hmm.
fully. Our smart contracts are in Solidity and deployed on Ethereum.
Okay.
But Victor, our CTO, has the vision of being blockchain agnostic and being able to run on any blockchain.
Oh,
So
okay.
what we
Cool.
do is after we deploy our smart contract on Ethereum, we do a dummy, let's say, modification on other blockchains, so that
Oh, okay.
we deploy it on other blockchains. Our team is actually currently working on translating or modifying all our smart contracts to work on the Neo blockchain as
Oh,
well.
nice. Yeah, I was thinking of that. Like which other blockchains are you interested in? So you might want to be able to migrate to other blockchains and be kind of this global standard as well. That's really cool.
Sure, or in the future, it could change, because with the emergence of, let's say, interoperability, or where blockchains can interact with one another, it's very important to be able to execute your smart contract on several blockchains.
Mm.
So I think this is something that we've included in our initial plans and everything that we've done. So whether it's our wallet, the block explorer. So today, to search Bitcoin blockchain, you have to go to blockchain.info. To search Ethereum, you have to go to Etherscan.
Yeah.
So there has to be a centralized or a one source that you'd be able to search any blockchain with the ease of search engines. So that's
Right.
hopefully Jibril Search, and that's another infrastructure product that we're releasing in the coming months.
Yeah, we're doing so you're doing quite a few things, right? So you're doing the search, you're trying to do the wallet, and the Jcash USDT Cash as well. So we're releasing a bunch of these services. Why are you trying
Let,
to do?
why? Okay, so this is actually a very okay. So Jcash is our core business, right? Criders is our core
Mm-hmm.
business. Criders, Jcash is part of Criders. Criders is any tokenized financial asset or any asset-backed token. So
Mm-hmm.
Jcash is one part. Then you'll have commodities, non-listed equities, futures, etc. These are all ERC20 tokens, right?
Right.
If I'm going to have an ERC20 token, then I'm going to have to depend on a wallet to house my tokens.
Right. Right. Right.
What we realized is that I don't really trust, or we don't really trust much of the wallets out there. So we decided to create our own.
Oh, okay. Right.
But with the J wallet, we've been able to pass all the security audits. We've done about 7, I believe, security audits on the J wallet, and we've passed all 7. The reason for that is that we don't hold any of the private keys. The private
Right.
keys are all generated on your local cache, encrypted, and they remain there. So I guess to answer your question, J wallet and Jibrel Search are infrastructure products that we decided to create to support our criders, because if I want to search for criders, Etherscan is not a very efficient way to do so. If I
Right.
want to store my criders, I wouldn't want to store them in the existing wallets out there in the market. I mean, over the past month or so, we've seen emergence of more promising wallets,
Mm-hmm.
but we believe there's a lot of value in connecting the wallet with the explorer.
Right.
So
Right. So you're
having
trying to make
one,
your own explorer, you make your own wallet, and you have a complete system for someone to use. So now it's a complete package rather than, okay, you go rely on this external source, and then if that external source has some drama, then it doesn't look good on you either, right? So
yes.
having everything in house is quite vital. So right now, so the core business is definitely the criders and getting those assets on the blockchain. So are you focusing on the USD backing first, or any other products first as well?
So all right. So US is definitely one because the dollar still remains the let's say de facto currency of the world.
Uh-huh.
US dollar, Korean won, and JAED. So JUSD, JKRW, and JAED would
Mm-hmm.
be the three let's say currencies that we've already done the regulations for. The smart regulations for all three have been done.
Okay.
The financial backing for the initial pilots is already secured,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's basically working with the regulators.
Okay, nice. So you're at the regulation stage, and eventually, so what's the roadmap like for Jibril?
All right. So today, our let's say most recent release was Jcash. We actually released Jcash on the 1st of Feb.
Mm-hmm.
We're, as we speak, deploying staff at more than one financial institution, which we'll be hopefully announcing in the coming months.
Mm-hmm.
So Jcash with licensed financial institutions is let's say the immediate step in our roadmap. We have the release of the J Wallet beta coming up soon as well.
Mm-hmm.
The iOS and Android version and the beta should be released in Q1 of this year.
Okay, nice.
And we have Jibril Search also coming up after the release of the beta. Our banking platform is something that could be offered to banks and
Uh-huh.
could be part of Jibril once we become a bank ourselves or a decentral bank. So there's the idea or there's the goal of becoming a licensed financial institution.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very, say, in advanced talks in banks in more than one jurisdiction.
So we have the roadmap coming, and I think one of the most interesting things is that you're trying to release a whole package solution for everyone, and try to have a solution for the U.S. dollar, the digitalization of assets. So I definitely want to follow up with this project. And what are some great ways to contact you guys?
Telegram is obviously one of the go-to
Mm-hmm.
mediums in the world of crypto, but we're also on Slack, Kakao Talk, WeChat, email, phone. If you want to send me a written letter as well, you can do that.
Let's put a link below, and I think this is something that if you want to follow up to on, do check out Telegram. I think that's probably the main source of communication
Telegram,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. And one of the things that we did in Telegram is that I actually respond to most of the questions on Telegram. I take
Nice.
some time of my day and because I don't want, I've been in Telegram groups of other ICOs and you have the copy paste answers where it's like
Yeah.
a file and it's like a one size fits all. You ask them about where they're registered and the answer would be like, oh, our token sale is now live. So it's
Yeah, so you actually answer them personally, so we can expect you to be there sometime to answer those questions, and that's awesome. I think
Yes, yes.
that's an awesome level of connection. So check out the Telegram group if you guys want to speak to Talal, I guess, and ask questions. I think that's a great way to get more in contact with this project. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I would love to follow up more with what's happening in Jibrel in the future, and I'd love to attend more conferences with you guys soon as well, because that was an amazing event that we had uploaded on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Oh man, after last conference, you have to attend every conference from now on.
Maybe I should. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much, Talal, for taking your time to come on this show. See you guys next time.
Thank you. It's an honor.